King of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, it is my song. 'Cause you are good, you're good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, you are good,
And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and withal how he had slain all the prophets with a sword.
Then Jezebel sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, So let God sing to me, and let also, if I may not die life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time.
And when he saw that, he arose and went for his life, and came to Bathsheba, which belonged to Judah, and left his servant there.
But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a fig tree, and he requested for himself that he might not die, and said, It is not found, O Lord, take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers.
And as he lay and slept under a juniper tree, behold, an angel touched him, and said unto him, Arise and eat.
And he looked, and behold, there was a cake baked on coals, and furnace of water at his head, and he did eat and drink, and lay down again.
And the angel of the Lord came again the second time, and touched him, and said, Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee.
And the Lord rose and did eat and drink, and left his treasure at meat 40 days later, and nights on Mount
And he came thither unto a cave, and he lodged there. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, and he said unto him, What doest thou here, Elijah? Praise the Lord, church. Today I want to briefly speak to you, and I just put a random title here, Get Out of Your Cave. Now before you sat down, I just want you to high five two people and just say, I'm glad you're here today. High five. Praise the Lord. You may be seated.
I'm glad you're here today.
Now I'm trying to make it humorous because I'm so nervous right now. I have never preached in a bishop's church, and also a church that is also filled with amazing preachers and men and women of God. So bear with me if you don't mind. Now, I'm crying not because I'm nervous. Well, actually, it's also because I'm nervous. But also I've been crying since last week when Bishop had told me to speak today. And I prayed unto the Lord, what am I going to say today? And the Lord took me back to about 4 years ago when there were things going on in my life. And He said, I have not given up on you.
Amen.
And I want you to just encourage somebody today. And if it's only for one person, you've done your job.
Amen.
And so today I'm just going to talk about Elijah. Now, understand that the context of this story is that in verse 18, Elijah was actually in a place where he was at his greatest. Okay, but in the verse we read, Elijah hid in his cave after he'd just done doing one of the greatest stories ever told in the Old Testament, where he challenged the worshippers of the god Baal. Okay, in chapter 18 of the same book that we mentioned, Elijah proved that there is a God in heaven, that there is a God in heaven who is alive, who is able to hear our voices, who is able to hear and reach out to his children, a God who is able to hear even our silent cries, a God who still answers prayers until this day, a God who Elijah said, let the God who answers by fire, let him be God. Amen. That same God is still the same God that we worship today. Amen. This is one of the greatest moments of biblical history. And in the Bible, in the first text that we just read, Jezebel, who heard the story. Now I'm going to be paraphrasing here, so you read between the lines. He basically wrote to Elijah and said, because you have done that, and you have made the prophets of the god Baal look puny, I'm going to kill you by this day tomorrow. Love Jess. I don't know if that's how they did letters back then, but that's how we do it now, right? Or if you want to be really formal, this is yours truly. So, after seeing this letter, Elijah, being not very careful, has allowed the fear to shut him down. And this is what made him run into his cave. Elijah hid in his cave. The Bible said that he lodged there. Now, lodge is even longer than just hiding, because when you hide, it's like, you hide for a few moments and then you come back out. Lodging there could be years. Ask Moses, you lodge in this cave for 40 years. Now, Elijah hid in his cave when he allowed fear to shut him down. Okay? And if we are not careful, we're allowing our fears to make us run into our cave. And when Elijah came into his cave, God was not pleased with that. That's why if we switch back to the New Testament, I just wanna actually ask somebody, what's the opposite of fear?
Courage.
Courage. That's the common belief. Now, it's not wrong or right, but biblical words actually say that the opposite of fear is God. Just like the opposite of good is not evil. It's actually the opposite of evil is truth. I'll get on that maybe another time when I ask the preacher. The opposite of fear is God. That's why when God is in your life, the first thing He takes away is fear. And God is saying here right now, it's time to get out of your cave, because fear is like mini gods. It's what alters your decision in a bit so that you do not get hurt anymore. Fear is what tells you to go into self-preservation mode. Okay? And when you go into your self-preservation mode, fear is what tells you to move church when you get hurt in the preaching of a church that tells the truth. That's fear. Fear is what allows you to actually go in a position where you put up these walls around you so that no one can hurt you.
Sure.
But you cannot have God in your life, because God is love, who casted out fear. So you can't have that in your life if you've got walls.
Amen.
And God is saying, shed your fear. Get out of your cave. Have more of me.
Amen.
1 John says it like this. And we have known and believed that the love God had to us. God is love. He that dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him. Herein is our love made perfect, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment. You cannot be fearful in the last days. It may not feel like it, but it is the last days. I know some Christians that are a little bit younger. They keep saying, we've been preaching about the last days. This last is kind of lasting kind of long. But we're still living in the last days. And I have lost my nuts. We live in a generation where basically the things that we have fought for, or well, not we personally, but our forefathers have fought for, is suddenly now seen as wrong. That's what I mean by we're living in the last days. That's so last days that you can offend somebody on the train by breathing too hard. They recently took out the Kleenex man tissue off the shelves from Tesco because it had the word man in it. There's a movement up in North England that wants humans to not be called humans because it has the word man and it's sexist. So you just want to be called human. And we can't call them Homo sapiens, which is the scientific name for people, because it has the word homo in it. So what do you call people now? We're in that time, church. So you cannot tell me we're not living in the last days. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear. Because fear and torment, he that feareth is not made perfect in love. If we are fearing and we are hiding in our cave, God is saying, you are not in love with me. Get out of your cave. We may be tired and we may be exhausted from the race, and some of us may be even in the midnight hours of our lives. But God is calling us to get out of our comfort zones.
Hallelujah.
Have you ever had those times where you come from a victory and you just, whatever battle you may be going through, and then you haven't even rested yet and there's another. And out of your exhausted emotions, you make decisions based on what you feel rather than based on what God is telling you. That was me 4 years ago. God is calling us to get out. That's because if we allow ourselves to remain in those situations, that is where we start to make decisions based on just how we feel. And sometimes we don't feel like praising God through those times. What happens if God says, oh, I don't feel like waking you up this morning? Just like Elijah, who stopped looking at what God is doing and instead depended on what he felt. We have now come to a point where the world's voice is so loud that the church and the people of the Most High God have come into hiding or fear of being shut down. And although we try to navigate around this issue, we tend to walk around the issues to ensure that we do not offend anybody. Why? Because of fear. And so we hide behind the political correctness and we hide behind eloquent words to ensure that we don't offend anybody. But church, let me tell you today that if we are Christians and we are the children of the Most High God, we cannot be so quiet that our life, our daily lifestyle do not disturb our generation. Amen. We cannot keep hiding behind the fear of this people. I mean, right now, for example, evangelisms, we remember doing those. Because it's not done a lot anymore, even in our churches. But now, if you actually evangelize in central London, you get arrested for it. I'm not talking about in the Middle East where Christianity is done. I'm talking about in London. Okay? We have a sister in Russia, for example, who actually had to run from the police, run from the police because they started arresting people when she was giving out tracts. That's the kind of last days we're at. And we're living in these days, church, and we cannot hide in our cave. We do not have the luxury of being complacent, hiding in our cave. In 1 Kings 18:4, when Jezebel cut off the prophets of the Lord, that Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them in a cave, 50 by 50, and fed them with bread and water. They were hiding in the cave. Why? They're telling each other, shh, because they're scared. And they're telling each other to be quiet. But if you are called by God to teach, if you are called by God to preach and to reach out to this lost and dying world, I need to just tell you this right now, because this is something that woke me up from 4 years ago. A silenced preacher is not any better than a dead one. Let me say it again. A silenced preacher is not any better than a dead one. When you have 100 people in this church without doing anything Monday to Friday or Saturday, it's not cute to be on full volume but on mute. Like when you accidentally press the mute on your TV and you're going on the volume on the remote and you're breaking the remote because there's no sound coming out. It may be in 4K, but it's annoying because there's no sound coming out. That's what's happening right now. Please don't misread me. I'm not talking about just from what I read in First Kings. This happened to me. That's why I'm so passionate about it. That's been me crying since Monday. See, as humans, we find ourselves in trouble, when we find ourselves in trouble or in a position where there's a situation that overwhelms or overcomes us, the right thing to do is to fight back. And the right thing to do is to hold on to the promises of God. And we should do just that. But God has been dealing with me for some time now. And it's been impressing in my heart that despite all of the messages that we've heard and see and witnessed miracles, some still choose to hide in their cave. You see, the cave that God is referring to here is not necessarily an actual cave, like not the ones in London. I visited that cave. I got stuck for a few hours, couldn't get out. But the cave I'm talking to you about here is the place where you choose to dwell in. Okay? It is what you think is the answer to your situation, which is what I did 4 years ago. I hid in the crowd of the church. I attended church where they didn't know I was a minister. I don't hurt you, you don't hurt me, everybody stays happy. But God just says, you don't make up the rules, Michael. You have to make your move or die of spiritual frostbite. The rules, the game is not yours. There's a saying in the Playboy people, I don't mean to use it in the church, but don't hate the player, hate the game. I'm the player in that game and I'm not moving, and he's saying, you don't get to make the rules, man. The sad part is that some people, like myself, have chosen their cave in their work, for example, have chosen their hobby, have chosen to travel, have chosen to buy this and that. And there was a time in my life where I had 4 cars in 1 year. I know, right? That was my cave. I thought that if I made myself happy there, then I would forget about what people did me there. But it has no eternal value. And whilst I, being one of those people that overstands that completely, and understand that we all need some space, but it is imperative that we do not hibernate to such a point that we have lost our connection with God and the people of God. Because in times like these are the times when we actually need God the most and His people, contrary to what we may feel. Especially if the hurt is coming from the people of God. But remember who hurt Jesus the most.
Yes, Lord.
It wasn't the soldiers. Pontius Pilate wanted to let Jesus go. It was the modern day church that said we want Him crucified. That's why we don't do the sign of the cross when we pray. Because the people that were being asked what they want to do with Jesus, the people that were afar off, whose voice couldn't be heard, they made the sign of the cross. So when you do it, when you pray, you're actually saying that I'm the one that crucified Christ. You're the reason, you're it. That's why we don't do that. Okay? It is by nature. Now, the reason why they still did this to Jesus, by the way, is because they actually feared Jesus Christ. And it is by nature that you kill what you're fearing, because you want to eliminate the threat. So now you're wondering why they killed Jesus. Now, I understand that completely. I was just in the Philippines. I got married 2 months ago. Bishop was with me now. In the Philippines, they have cockroaches, which is fine. I'm scared of normal cockroaches. In the Philippines, it's serious. They are flying cockroaches. So the normal ones, I can do this. The cockroaches we have are like buzzing around. Now, I'm 127 kilos. Mine can't jump to kill a cockroach. Okay? And I may be fat, but I moved like a ninja. I was killing them left, right, and center. All because I feared them. Now you understand why Satan wants you out. Because if you only knew what power you have, you actually have power over him. And that is why he's using fear to take you out. Because if you only realize just how much power you have. You know, sometimes the devil will believe Jesus more than we do. God tells you, you're going to be a preacher. You're like, who, me? And the devil trying to take you out before you realize it's really you. And you're hiding in your cave. And the devil wants to get rid of you while you're hiding in your cave. Because he knows how much power you have. But understand that the devil is nothing more than an ex-employee who got fired for non-performance. It was the right hand of God. And sometimes he will condemn you because you've done this and you've done that and you were wrong in the past. Do you know how pathetic that is? Because if you failed in the past because the devil tempted you, that's because there was a devil. This dude failed God when there wasn't a devil. How can you fail at that point? There was nothing tempting him. Do you see how funny that is? Well, to me, I don't know if you find it humorous. I find it funny. I laugh at sometimes when I read the Bible. I'm looking at Satan who's failed God and there was nothing tempting him. And yet he has the audacity to turn around and basically crucify you almost and blame you for things that happened when there was something tempting you. Understand that. He is nothing but an ex-employee who got fired for non-performance. But the last time I read the word of God, your family,
Amen.
you can't get fired. You can't be put up for adoption. You can leave, but God's waiting at the door for you to come back. Understand who you are to God. King David says it like this. I'm sure you've heard it so many times where he said, "Who am I that thou art mindful of me?"
Hallelujah.
In modern day translation from the Septuagint, when they translated it recently, it actually means, "Who am I that your mind is full of me?"
Hallelujah.
So you're not just thinking of me, your mind is full of me.
Jesus. Amen.
This is the family of God.
Amen.
And when you're hurt by the family of God, stay in your place.
Amen.
Stay where God put you, because
Yes,
the
Lord.
joy of the Lord is your strength.
Yes, Lord.
It is your strength to overcome. But here's the thing. The strength you need is found in the joy of the Lord.
Amen.
But the joy of the Lord is found where? In His presence is fullness of joy.
That's right.
So when you have problems with the people of church, of God in the church, stay in the church.
Amen.
Because the power you need to overcome it stays within.
Hallelujah.
It may be nice to be alone every now and then just to clear your mind, but don't stay there too long.
Amen. Right.
See, this is not the time to hide. This is the time to be in the presence of God.
Amen.
This is the time to shed your fear and get out of your cave.
Amen.
The reason why God hates fear is because God is love. We heard that earlier, I mentioned it. But you cannot love if you're fearful, because fear is likened unto God's. And God said that there can only be one in your life.
Hallelujah.
God is a jealous God, and He wants the best for you. But He will not compete for you. You need to know what's good for you. That's why God told the Israelites, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." In other words, what He's saying to them, get your God out of my face, because if I get it out for you, wherever I put it, there you will be also. Because the fear is what allows you to run in your cave, and the fear becomes now your God. Because you're following it rather than what God told you to do.
Amen.
Fear puts you into self-preservation mode, like I said earlier, and when you choose something else or someone else to be your refuge rather than God, you are delivering the ultimate blow to the heart of God. Because you are suggesting that despite the omnipresent, all-knowing, all-powerful characteristic of God, that you have met a situation or something in your life for which He is incapable to handle. And you place yourself in another refuge, in a cave. And I've come to tell you here today to get out of that cave before that cave becomes your grave.
Amen.
I say it like that because staying in your cave can cause you to have different ideologies. Because by nature, we adapt to our surroundings. And there is no generation that has done this more than the one we have today. Let me take it a little bit closer to home. Have you ever had one of those times when you're in your room and you can't sleep, so you have your lights off but you're wide awake? Yeah? And your body adapts to that surrounding, so now you can actually see clearly. But what was dark is now light. You see that? Now what is one of the characteristics of a cave? It's dark. Ain't no light in a cave. But you stayed in that situation long enough, and what was wrong is now right.
True.
See, when you hide yourself in your cave and you stay there long enough, the darkness becomes light, and what was wrong is now right. Now let me go a little bit out of just home. Let me go into sort of generics, okay? We have this thing called millennials. Have you guys heard of it? So millennials suggest that these are people that are born between 1980 to current. The millennials are the ones that are actually sort of running the world now-ish because of the ideology that has been placed forward and because of the petitions that are being signed and forwarded. And the mindset is so bad that because of these petitions that we have forwarded, we have lost our spiritual equilibrium and reversed our values. We have ridiculed the absolute truth of God's word and called it pluralism. We have worshipped other gods and called it multiculturalism. We have endorsed perversion and called it an alternative lifestyle. We have exploited the poor and called it the lottery. We have rewarded laziness and called it welfare. We have killed our unborn and called it choice. We have shot abortionists and called it justifiable. We have neglected to discipline our children and called it building self-esteem. We have abused power and called it politics. We have coveted our neighbor's possession and called it ambition. We have ridiculed the time-honored values of our forefathers and called it enlightenment. And what we considered right back then is now wrong. And everything that we believed and what our forefathers believed and fought for is now considered the primitive ways of thinking. These are just some of the things. I've got 98 pages of this. I could read the whole thing. But I'm just reading a few. These are just some of the things that our generation have done. And these have been allowed because the cave dwellers before us have allowed it to happen. I can't remember which verse in the Bible, and I'm sure I'm going to get penalized for this later, but where is somewhere in Luke where Jesus actually commended the outside people and said that the world is smarter than the church.
Yes.
Because the world's voice is doing this, and because we want to keep people in the church, we're going to go, yeah, we can do a bit of that. You know what that is? It's called fear. And we allow ourselves to enter into these caves, and we don't get out. And if we don't get out, our ideology changes. You start to guard yourself, changing the way you think. Staying in these caves suddenly makes you the authority. You become tough, which is a cover because, simply put, we just don't want to get hurt. And instead of becoming better, we become bitter and we lose the blessings of God. But if we can get out of our cave and run to God, we can get ourselves free from that bondage. And we can have a better testimony and say to all the world that will listen to us that the Lord brought me out and the Lord made a way.
Amen.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that, just get hurt, willy-nilly, allowing people to slap you on the road. No, don't do that. What I'm saying is that when it comes to what you believe now, if it's starting to affect what you believe, you have to stand for your truth. You have to understand that God is expecting you to stand for what's right.
Amen.
But be careful that you do not take the place of God.
Amen.
The book of Psalms speaks of God being a refuge, a very present help in time of need. And if we are not careful, when we protect ourselves too much, we're taking God's place. And we're hindering Him from actually delivering us from the situation. And we're wondering why it doesn't seem like God is answering. When you protect yourself, imagine it this way, if I put it in sort of a more easier text to understand. You have a water gun and it has a nuclear weapon. And you want to protect yourself with that water gun. And God is going, okay, let me go further. The Bible says that rebellion is as witchcraft. When you protect yourself, but you're asking God for help, but you're doing it for Him, God will not move, because if He moves, He's actually bending His own rules, because you have free will. But if you take His place, He cannot now help you. Because if you ask Him to do something, but then you do it anyway, you're now rebelling. So it's better that He doesn't do anything than if He does it now for you, you're in rebellion. Because we're taking His place. And what I'm saying here is that it's okay to protect yourself, but just ask God. Ask help from God. Pray to God. And if you prayed already and nothing happened, pray again until your nothing becomes something.
Amen.
I understand that it may be easier said than done because of people or situations may have cut us deeply and really damaged some things, but it still has to be done. Because only when from the very depths of your heart you can forgive those who have caused you grief. Can you fully release yourself and get out of your cave?
Amen.
And stop hiding from the things that are stopping you from having a wonderful life with God. It was mentioned earlier, today we all woke up. There is another chance to do better, to be better than who we were yesterday. Every day that God wakes us up in the morning is another opportunity to grow up and learn and be a blessing.
Amen.
God whom we serve is so good. He doesn't just sit there and watch you go through hell.
Amen.
God gives us the chance to change and to come back to Him. God kept calling Elijah. What doest thou here, Elijah? Church, I encourage you today to come out of your cave, to come out of your comfort zone, to come out of your hiding, to come out of your hiding from your calling.
Hallelujah.
When Elijah finally came out, this was the tragic part of it. He stayed in his cave so long that when he finally came out, whilst the Lord did not take his ministry away from him, but the chances or situation for which his ministry could have been used was over. The only thing he could do now was to find his replacement and anoint that guy. Do not hide in your cave to the point that the only thing you are now called to do is to replace your replacement, to anoint your replacement. That's what happened to Elijah. God sent the fire, God sent the earthquake, God sent winds. He didn't come out of the cave. Finally, when the still small voice of the Lord happened, he came out. That it was too late for his ministry on earth. Do not allow your fear to shut you down. Church, I close with this. I told you I won't be long. I'm going to close with this. God is the God of second chances. And third and fourth and fifth and third.
Amen.
But do not miss your call like I almost missed mine. Like I said, for 4 years I hid in my cave. There was a lot of heartaches and pain. I helped churches with their needs. So I would attend church. I would tell them I'm a minister. I would help them with their music. I would help them with decorating, whatever, but they never knew I was a minister. That was my hiding in the cave. Because I felt that I could not be back here to get shut down and get hurt again. I became complacent in my cave. I did not want to stand in any pulpit that God would let me have. But God did not stop the call. And I stand here before you only by the grace of God. Because God is good and faithful. And a few times in 2018, I almost died. Twice. And when death came knocking at my door, God's mercy said no. It's not.
Thank you, Jesus.
And God sees the best in us, even when everyone else in that church I was in only see the worst in me.
Hallelujah.
God wants you. It does not matter what you failed to do before or what you've done before. God still wants you.
Hallelujah.
Just like Moses, who basically hid in his cave for 40 years. And one day he's walking along the desert and he's got sheep dung on his foot and whatnot. He wasn't clean. And suddenly a bush caught fire. And he comes closer to that bush and that bush tells him, "You're dirty, you stutter, you have dung on your foot, you have sheep clothing, but I want you." Doesn't matter if you've been complacent for the last 40 years, Moses. Doesn't matter if you've been complacent for the last 4 years, Michael. I want you.
Amen.
And if God can do that for Moses and He's done it for me, He can do it for you.
Amen.
If you need a reset in 2019, let today be the beginning of the rest of your life outside of that.
Hallelujah.
Amen.